Guys, February Hall of Heroes just announced, and this month, Dark Hall of Heroes, we have finally, after almost 7 years, we have the Dark Sylph. This guy was always off the table for 7 years. Every time Dark Hall of Heroes rolled around, everyone was like, oh, what's going to be this month? Like, it's not going to be ASCHUBEL. He's too OP. He's like a Hathor. He AoE sleep for 2 turns. Skill 2 attack gauge reduction also boosts his own attack gauge. Everyone's like, he's too OP, he's not going to be Hall of Heroes. He's too OP, he's got a speed lead, he's not going to be Hall of Heroes. He's too OP. Finally, we get Hall of Heroes, ASCHUBEL, and people are pissed. They're pissed. They're like, he's not Okeanos. I'm pissed. He's not a Nat 5. I'm pissed. He's food. He's food for Tyrant. I mean, I see where a little bit what they're saying in terms of like that Tyrant is hard control and ASCHUBEL is soft control, where is like if you hit something and you gotta sleep, then it's gonna wake up, right? Whereas Tyrant, if you freeze something, then it's gonna. But the thing is, it's a 2-turn sleep. It's a 2-turn sleep, which is really huge, and it's not just the sleep. I mean, they both have speed leads, granted, but also Tyrant is very strong for a 4-star as well. I mean, you're comparing it to, in my opinion, one of the best 4-stars. And ASCHUBEL is still one of the better LD 4-stars, in my opinion. And I think there's some places that you guys are discounting ASCHUBEL and how strong he can be. So anyway, yeah, let's take a look at this, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the ASCHUBEL Hall of or the ASCHUBEL, right? So let's take a look at stats. Let's take a look at what he did. I just thought it was crazy. Like, we've been waiting for him for so long, and like now we finally get him, and people are pissed. Like, as a community, what do we want? Like, I'm like, this is one of the better things that they've been doing. They've been giving us good units every so often. They've been doing, repeat battles. They've been doing all this stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still butthurt about comp to us, and I do still understand the point of like why people are saying like, oh, he's like Tyrant, but they prefer Tyrant because hard control. Whereas, like, for example, if you're going to use Tyrant in Hall of Heroes, you can still do continuous damage. If you're going to use ASCHUBEL in Hall of Heroes, the continuous damage would wake them up, right? Because it does damage to them. It wakes them up when they get their turn. So the 2-turn sleep, if they have continuous damage on them, they're going to wake up and they're going to be like, oh, it's just basically a 1-turn sleep, right? So that's kind of a bummer as far as that's concerned. But you could always put bombs on them, right? And then bombs are going to stun when they detonate, right? So 2-turn sleep and then bombs works nicely together. So let's take a look at his. He's got 105 base speed. He's attack type unit. He's got more attack than anything else. He's got this, increases his crit rate by 30% the next turn if you get a critical hit. By the way, the crit buff is always 30%. Just FYI, it says 30% here, but it's always 30%. Crit buffs. Yeah, crit buffs are always 30%. Turbulence, this is different than Beretta. Okay, so let's take a look at how this is different. This Turbulence, decreased attack bar to 0. This one, decreased attack bar to 0 and increases your attack bar by 50%. So it's just a little bit stronger than the Beretta. And then we have skill 3, Nightfall, surrounds all enemies with night and puts them to sleep for 2 turns, prevents them from receiving beneficial effects for 2 turns. So I think the biggest, most obvious comparison here is that people are comparing him to Tyrant. People are comparing him to Hathor, right? People are mostly comparing them for 2 different areas of the game. They're saying RTA and they're saying TOA, right? Where they're like, if they're gonna do TOA, they would prefer a Tyrant versus ASCHUBEL because they're gonna do like TOA hard, for example, because Tyrant will also decrease attack gauge. And then the continuous damage, right? So if they want to put continuous damage on, then it's going to wake them up from sleep. Whereas Tyrant, if they're frozen, then they're going to be fine, right? So that's the situation there. However, I do think that people are discounting this Nightfall, the second part of Nightfall, because they're just reading the first part and they're saying, okay, cool, that's it. They're not really paying too much attention to the second part. Prevents them from receiving beneficial effects for 2 turns. So there are some areas in TOA where you do want things that prevent beneficial effects. Like, for example, the arena stage, Epicon Priest and TOA hard, right? Kind of annoying if they're continually putting their shields up over and over and over again. The Dark Phantom Thieves, kind of annoying if they keep putting their invincibility up over and over and over again, right? So you have a 2-turn sleep, and then you also have the block beneficial effects, so that they don't get their invincibility, they don't get their shield. Same thing with the Light Lich. Again, Light Lich stage, He also has control for the Light Lich over here, and then he's got the sleep. So you have this for TOA, and then you have the block beneficial effects. And this is really clutch for some levels. I mean, he's not clutch for every level, but you can still use him for every level. And then he's just extra helpful in the levels that have, passives that have beneficial effects, right? So just keep that in mind. And he's a lot of control, man. He's got a lot of control. This is going to be honestly great for the beginner's grind series. For there. So now the second thing that people are comparing him to, or even more so, is Hathor, right? He's not as good in RTA. He is not as efficient as, not even that he's not as efficient as Hathor. He's not good in RTA based on the same reason, because he was actually good in RTA. He was used more in previous seasons. However, the current meta is really favoring more hard control and more aggressive damage control, like control units that also do damage, especially with the additional damage artifacts. Things like Shompung, things like Ukianos are very strong this season, and that's why you don't see as much Hathors, right? So he is kind of nerfed in the same way that Hathor is kind of nerfed in the higher levels of RTA, because people are just looking for as much efficiency as possible, right? However, I do think that if you are doing like low levels of RTA, if you're just very casual and you pop into RTA every so often, you could actually still get some use out of this guy in low levels of RTA, especially if he's on Swift. If he's on Swift, you put a good Swift set on him. You take turn 1, if the enemy doesn't have will runes, you basically insta-win. You basically insta-win because you just deny them 8 turns, which is pretty crazy. Because he got his own speed lead, and you put him on Swift runes. If the enemy has will runes, then, not insta-win, right? If they're prepared for it, but if they're not prepared, you could just, AoE sleep. Everyone, GG. You have an 8-turn advantage. That you have 8 turns to start killing things before they move. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And then it also has to block the beneficial effects, as well. Another thing is, well, you don't really see Josephine too much, actually. I've been noticing that, you don't really see Josephine too much. I was going to make a comment that him versus Hathor against Josephine, one of the things with that is that he has block beneficial effects here, which will make sure that she will cleanse the sleep on her and give herself a turn. And it also has a speed lead, man. But it won't shield up the rest of the team. So the rest of the team won't get that shield. It's just a small thing. It's not necessarily like, oh my god, well then we have to build him because of that, right? And that, however, those things, and also you could use them for TOA also. Most things that you use for, did I say TOA? Hall of Heroes. I mean, not this Hall of Heroes, but future Hall of Heroes. Or this Hall of Heroes, whatever. But yeah, most things that you use for TOA you can use for Hall of Heroes. Also, sometimes they overlap some Labyrinth stages he might be good for as well. But I think one of the things, more so than maybe anything else, one of the things that people are not really thinking about in terms of using ASCHUBEL is that, and keep this in mind, you know how there's a whole lot of Commune Vigor XYZ things in Guild Siege? Well, this is going to deny them so many turns. In addition to that, this is going to prevent them from receiving beneficial effects. So, crit buff, speed buff, shields. That team has 3 beneficial effects that they keep putting up. So he has a speed lead that is applicable in Guild Wars, and then he has this block beneficial effects. So I think this is an underrated unit for the current Guild Siege meta. I think that this could definitely be used in the current Guild Siege meta. I don't know what percentage of people are using will runes on their Commune Vigor Skogels. I assume that they are. A lot of people like to use the Communes without will runes and with different things, like for example, Destroy. I was thinking Revenge, right? And Skogel sometimes has will runes, sometimes doesn't. I don't know the exact percentage, but you could even YOLO it and try to Swift and outspeed with ASCHUBEL, and a lot of times Vigor is on will runes, but not necessarily everything else is on will runes. So just keep that in mind, is that might be a fantastic thing for Guild Siege for you. And I think a lot of people are discounting this in Guild Siege. They're like, oh, he's like Hathor, I can't use him in G3 RTA. Food! And I'm like, yeah, but there's so many Commune Vigor Skogels in Guild Siege that this might actually be a clutch unit for Guild Siege. And we're not even thinking about it because we're too focused on the sleeps, which actually sleeps are good, especially sleeps and bombs. That could be a really brutal guild siege against Commune Vigor stuff. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. This may be super clutch for you guys in that, and that might be the best place to use him. That might be the most optimal place to use him because that could be pretty OP. All right, guys. Anyway, I think that's it for this one. Let's go over. I mean, I guess we'll go over real fast, like where I would see him being used. Like arena offense, no, not at all. Arena. I mean, actually, wait. Now that I think about it, I started saying not at all, but I think that you actually possibly could. We'll try him out. I think you possibly actually could. Again, with a bomb team, it's not going to be like super fast like Lucia. It's going to be a little bit slower, but I think it could still be fine. Now that I think about it, okay. So maybe arena defense, no. Speed lead is not enough, and then sleeps are pointless because they got the towers, and it's going to wake everyone up anyway. I would not do that for arena defense. RTA, lower levels, yes. Higher levels, no. Where else? Giants, no. Wait. No. Not Giants, not Dragons, not Necro. Wait a second. Maybe Steel Fortress, but people don't really need stuff for Steel Fortress because he's got block beneficial effects, but probably not anyway. There's food, I was thinking about it, food for thought. Not Steel Fortress, not Punisher Script, not really a dungeon unit. You don't really want AoE sleep for dungeons. Yes for TOA, yes for Hall of Heroes, maybe for Labyrinth. I think Guild Siege is going to be the place that he shines the most. You could use him to low levels for RTA. Maybe we could use him for arena offense a little bit, and I think Guild Siege is going to be the place that he shines the most. Can we use him in anything in Dimension Hole? I don't think... Not really. I would just use other stuff in Dimension Hole. But I think he might... The best place for him might be Guild Siege against those Commune Vigor Skulls. But anyway, that's it for this one. Just wanted to give you guys some info on there. And I think maybe some people aren't really... Are kind of discounting the fact that he could be useful in Siege. But anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you as always. Let me know if you guys are excited about this, because me personally, I am very excited about this unit, and I was kind of... I see where people are coming from where they don't like him because they have more premium stuff that they spent money on. But for me personally, I've always wanted him, so I'm glad to finally get him, and I will definitely use him based on that. And I would love to use him for some Guild Sieges, because Commune Vigor Skogels are... Well, Commune Vigor, not even as much Skogels right now, but Commune Vigor and X are just everywhere still. So anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you as always in the next one.